Welcome to the STS in the Philippine Context. In this blog, we'll learn about the historical timeline and the development of science and technology here in the Philippines, included the scientists and the innovation behind it. And now, BSBA MKT-2F will do the honor to bring you back in time.
This science, technology, and society is an interdisciplinary field that studies the condition under which the production, distribution, and utilization of scientific knowledge and technological system. Essentially, science and technological have introduced us to the establishment of modern civilization. This development contributes greatly to almost every aspect of our daily life. The essence of how science and technology contributes to society is the creation of new knowledge and the utilization of that knowledge to boost prosperity of human lives and to solve the various issues facing society. So, what is the difference between the word science and technology? The goal of science is to pursue the knowledge for its own sake, while the goal of technology is to create products that solve problems and improve the human life. So, simply but technology is the practical application of science.
Metal Ages began about 6,000 years ago. It divided into stages: the Copper Age, Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. Metal Ages people made a variety of metal objects. They also invented new techniques for making clay pottery, and they started using large stacks of stone called megaliths to build monuments.
Prehistoric man used metal to build tools and weapons as our knowledge of metallurgy had developed. They heated and shaped the metals in hot furnaces. Metal have played an essential role in the advancement of arts and crafts, forging the path to today's modern society.
When the Spaniards colonized the Philippines, it brings a massive development to the growth and progress of science and technology in the country. Furthermore, it introduced formal education and founded scientific institutions, and later on established colleges and universities. Of course, the galleon trade made a big impact in economic growth. Also, when Suez Canal was built, visiting each other countries influenced the rapid development of scientific ideals by the Age of Enlightenment, mainly brought by Europeans for advancement of engineering, medicines, arts, music, and literature in our continent.
This American colonization in the country have greater contribution to the Philippines than Spaniard. They established public education system, enhanced engineering works, and people health condition. The Mode Research University, the UPR University of the Philippines, and made more public hospital. The transportation and mineral resources was also improved during their time. Americans did everything to the Philippines to be Americanized. They also the one who introduced science and school and eventually become former subject here in the Philippines. American desire to develop human resources of the Philippines that is pertaining to their own interests become beneficial to Philippines, since now we are improving, innovating, and other modern technology that American allow us to have knowledge. The World War II weakened the Philippines, grown in many ways. Many establishments crashed, burned, and turned into ash. Even many lives has been destroyed. The human spirit of people in the Philippines is elevated when it comes to surviving, but fortunately, we don't have any capacity to rebuild it since we have limited resources. So the limited reparation was focused on building the facilities like public institutions, schools, hospitals, and even transportation. Japan also gave us the reparation money that have been centralized on building highways and providing technological training and human resources development in the country. The time New Republic was established, the nation priorities to the limit resources to improve the science and technology in the Philippines. It also became the time where ODA was used, the overseas development allocation from other countries to improve science productivity and technological capability. Human resources development have been said the heart of this effort. They producing engineers, scientists, technology expert, and other professionals here in the Philippines.
The colonization of the Philippines contributed to growth of science and technology in the archipelago. The Spanish introduced formal education and founded scientific institutions. What are the role of science and technology in national development? Science and technology hold the key to advancement of any country. Innovation plays a crucial part in its creation, advancement of quality of life, and genuine financial development and change in any society. What is the present status of science and technology in Philippines? Recently, the Philippines position 73rd out of 120 economies in terms of science and innovation and an advanced STS record, citing the country quality in investigation and commercialization. What is the major contribution of the Philippines to the field at present? The Filipinos have contributed a parcel within the field of science and innovation. In reality, there have been development by Filipino researchers, taking after a few of development by the Filipinos. Land using always ocean water rather than land fuel. What is the biggest contribution of Philippines to the world? Our country's most prominent contribution to the world is the quality and the confidence of each individual. The Philippines known have preserved characteristic calamities, and in spite of all the misery, Filipinos are still able to stand and carry on with their lives.
As the days goes by, the current structure of market, incentives, and regulatory conditions in much of the world will not by itself produce sustainable outcome or social optimal investment decisions. Alternatives to the dominant technologies may exist, but there is no certainty that they will be deployed on the scale and in the time frame necessary to avoid some of the most troubling consequences of the world's current energy and trajectory.
And I'm here to introduce you the National Research Council of the Philippines, or NCRPC policy. So the Philippine government introduce and implement the programs, projects, and policies to boost science technology. The goal of this is to prepare the whole countries and its people to meet the demands of technology driven by science. The NRCP cluster these policies into four. Number 1 is social science, humanities, education, and international policies and governance. Number 2, physical engineering and industrial research. Number 3, medical and chemical. Number 4, biological science, agriculture, and forestry.
There are also other established projects that the Philippines government is supporting. DOST stands for Department of State. Here are a few of these initiatives providing financing for basic science and technology research and patents. Scholarships for students in the fields undergraduate and student of science and technology to stimulate academic and industry science and technology parks are being established. Partnerships and encourage Filipino scientists working overseas to return to the Philippines and work there. Establishment of regional centers to assist specialized industries that will drive the economy forward in a variety of research and development fields. Then there are many other areas and fields in which the country plans to invest. First is use of alternative and safe energy, harnessing mineral resources, and the third is finding cure for various diseases. Then the fourth is climate change and global warming, is increasing food production, and number 6 is preservation of natural resources, and the 7 is coping with natural disasters and calamities. So number 8 is infrastructure government.
There are many science-related programs here in the Philippines. Based on my point of view, these programs gives help to our fellow Filipino in their daily lives. Here in Nabotas, our local government focuses on fisheries, giving fishermen seminars on how they will improve their work. It includes protecting the environment, also avoiding dynamite fishing and using a regular hose for their fish net. Coastal Clean Up is also one of our local government's great program. This program is teaching people to be aware on what are the consequences if we throw garbage on our own body of water. It's also teach Raboteños the value of unity, that everything is possible if we work together. As you can see, these programs are related to science because it is part of our agriculture.
I recently that the country looking forward to embark various research and projects. Use of alternative and safe energy, harnessing the mineral resources, finding cure for various diseases and illnesses, especially right now with the COVID-19. Fighting climate change and global warming, and increasing food production with preservation of natural resources, coping with natural disaster and calamities, and last is infrastructure development.
Development of policies in the Philippines. The development of policies in science and technology is shaped or influenced by several variables. Policies need to be aligned to national goals, consider international commitments based on legal frameworks, and respond to various social needs, issues, and problems. As we can see in this diagram, there have 4 criteria: national goals, international treaty, legal frameworks, social needs, issues, and problems in order to develop science and technology policies, program, and projects. So why these are the criteria in order to develop science and technology policies? Science and technology policies ensure that the whole country and all people will experience the progress that science can bring. Policies are guides to direct all alerts to a goal of developing a scientifically advanced country. This is why we need those criteria. We need to be experience it in every person in this country so they can experience what science can bring. We can develop policies if we have those. Criteria, especially for a development of policies in a country, is a must because we got those goals or criteria. It can be so helpful for the whole country.
Good day everyone, I'm Mary Joy from MKT-2F. Today, let me introduce to you the topic of the famous Filipino in the field of science. Lee Chua identified 10 outstanding Filipino scientists who have made a significant contribution in the Philippines and also known all over the world. Ramon C. Barbera, who invented a successful experiment on the inducement of flowering of mango trees by spraying them with enteral and potassium nitrate. Josepino C. Camiso is a senior research scientist at the Cyrospheric Science Laboratory of the Goddard Space Flight Center.
Good day everyone, I'm Mr. Jordi De Romano from Marketing 2F. Jose B. Cruz Jr. In research, he has made major contributions to the theory and practice of automatic control. Lourdes J. Cruz contributed the understanding of biochemistry of toxic peptides from the venom fish hunting, Conus marines, snail. Fabian M. Dairy. He contributed a research of herbal medicine.
Number 6, Rafael Dineros Guerrero, retired, for his research on tilapia culture. Number 7, Enrique Mapua Estrella Jr., for inventing the meconium drug testing. Number 8, Lilia Formanejo Pateno, for doing research on plant pathology. Number 9, Malejo Panganiban movies for being an outstanding innovator and drop of the orange. Number 10. Gregorio Ligot Tangonan for his research in the field of communication technology.
There are a lot of outstanding scientists that have been recognized not just in our country but also in abroad, and they are: one is Caesar A. Saloma, which is an internationally known physicist. Then the second one is Eduardo Gomez, that is the famous scientist in marine science. And the third one is William Padalina, the NASD president in chemistry. The last one is Angel Alcala, which is a marine science.
Factors that influence the development of Filipino scientists. The colonization of the Philippines contributed to growth of science and technology in the archipelago. The Spanish introduced formal education and founded scientific institutions. Later, the Spanish established colleges and universities in the archipelago, including the University of Santo Tomas. Science provides the foundation for humanity's progress. Students of science who became scientists, doctors, and those who followed other branches of science have shaped our modern world. The wonders of online world, advanced medicine, the state-of-the-art, transportation, and almost everything we use to make life easier and more enjoyable are there because individuals have used their knowledge of science to create real-life applications.
This is Cyril L. Ramos, and my topic is entitled Indigenous Knowledge System. So what is Indigenous Knowledge System? Indigenous Knowledge System is developed and adopted continuously to gradually changing environments and passed down from generation to generation and closely interwoven with people's cultural values. And also, Indigenous Knowledge System comprises knowledge developed within Indigenous society, dependent of and prior to the advent of the modern scientific knowledge system. For example, a study or understanding the characteristics like oral tradition, second is role of music, and the last is holistic view of the world.
Indigenous science is based on direct observations, experience to forecast, and predictions from our nature. It relies indigenous people connections to all living and non-living things and how they perceive patterns they gather with their senses. And indigenous science specializes herbal medicines such as acupuncture in China and weather predictions or observations. Without the advanced science we have today, our ancestors was able to come up to a system where they can sustain and understand their nature with the help of indigenous science. And one of the recognized in the indigenous science in the Philippines is Banawe rice terraces, where our native Filipino was able to create a sustainable way of farming in the mountains.